lose your scent. Mr. Musk, when this all gets sorted out, I think you and me should get an apartment together.
That's great psychology. Why don't you just say something bad about my mother?
Shut up and never say anything again as long as you live.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole!
That was really cool, by the way.
Butthole!
How, in the name of Zeus's butthole, did you get out of your cell? Salty!
Moon River.
I gotta barbecue your ass in molasses!
I couldn't think of a more horrible job if I wanted to. And you have to do it.
You're not hearing what I'm saying.
Oh, that's okay, Doc, because you're not saying what I'm hearing.
Just follow the money.
We're honored to have with us today our amazing Vice President, Mike Pence, and his wonderful wife, Carrot.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. I'm all out of bubblegum.
Sportos, motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, dickheads. They all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
Every minute you don't tell us why you're here, I cut off a finger.
Mine or yours?
Yours. Damn.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
Just looking around here, I can tell you're a genuinely dirty person.
Once it was reluctantly aroused. It was hard to get it aroused, and it is hard to get it aroused, but we got it aroused.
And you know, when you say per capita, this little per capita is just like per capita relative to what?
You have nobody guarding your potatoes.
What's happening, folks? How are you? Good to see you. Welcome. I missed you terribly yesterday. I feel like we all had a scrubbed lunch. You know what I mean? But raise your hand in the chat if you flew 1,700 miles round trip yesterday in one day, starting at 6 a.m. and ending at 6 p.m. 30, technically 7, but okay. When I finally got home, good times. Just saying, whew, big one. But you'll be happy to know the package has been secured and the valuables are now on the premises. Those of you that know the code know it well. Valuable's birthday is also tomorrow. He will be 9. And so far, I've kept him from peeking in the garage. Hope he's not watching. I mean, I know he's not. I know exactly what he's doing. Downstairs, playing Splatoon 2. I set up for him so that, yeah, it was a morning. So, hi. Yes, my arms are exhausted. It was incredibly worth it. But it was an interesting round trip to be on an airplane and in airports. In this, I won't say precisely which airports I was in, It was kind of nobody's business other than Vegas. And I did fly one way, both ways, like nonstop, both ways, because it was the shortest amount of time traveling seemed to be the smartest thing. I could have spent the better part of a couple of days driving, picking up said package, and delivering him to the West Coast. But it seemed to me that amounted to more opportunities to come into contact with human beings who were, let's just say, disengaging from the proper practice during a pandemic. So I decided the flying was the best option, and we ultimately did. We flew. I flew and picked him up and brought him back, and it was an interesting exercise. The planes themselves, and I don't know if anybody else in the chat room has flown in the last little bit. Probably not. Statistically, probably next to zero. The plane smelled like formaldehyde both ways. I had a headache as soon as I got on the plane because of the cleaning that they are doing in an attempt to, I mean, it must have been in the air ducts. They must have flushed this. Yeah, and Connie, you are absolutely right. I'm in a dead rush to get my flying license for this particular reason. Yeah, the stench of clean. That's exactly what it was. It was gnarly, and I had the same plane going and coming back because it basically just sat there until it returned back to wherever the crew was from. So I think they're taking crews that are doing stuff and they're trying to limit them staying overnight in a hotel, for example. So the same crew has a break, goes to some sort of lounge where they don't encounter other people, and then turns right back around and goes home. To try and limit the number of their people that get sick and possibly spread it and all that kind of stuff. It was a fascinating adventure, to say the very least. And the only thing that kept me from, like I said, driving was the number of public toilets that are necessary in a 2 and God knows how many long hours, 2.5 days, maybe 3-day round trip through, let's just say, states that are facing a logarithmical growth in the number of cases and deaths. Let's put it that way. So there's a bunch in there. And hi, chat room. Greg, why formaldehyde? Were they embalming? Yeah, they just were carrying so many corpses in the body of the plane. No, I think it was just literally them burning out everything in the system and not even playing around. Like they were every possible cleaning solution they could pump through the system of that plane they had done to get it ready again. The security lines were interesting. They were fewer people but very long because of the spacing, and that in and of itself took a little extra time. So if you're gonna fly, understand that. Also, I flew Southwest, largely because Southwest was the one airline. There are a couple of airlines I used to use regularly that had non-stops. They're not currently flying them. This was the only one available. And so kind of going and coming, they line up on Southwest A and B and half the A group and on one side of a thing and half the A group. Southwest is now doing it in groups of 10. So there's A1 through 10 and A10 through 20, et cetera, et cetera. And on both flights, there were less than 35 to 40 people. Both flights. And so everybody was in the A category. Everybody's number, though, was a little longer just because they were spacing them out. So, hey, Carl, thank you. I'm glad I made it back safely as well. Bless you. It was a journey, and I have to say there's a level of, concern. I wouldn't call it anxiety, but I would call it like you feel like you're steadying yourself against something. And that, the people that stand out are the people in the airport walking around with, thanks, Carl. The people walking around with no masks, no gloves, no nothing. And you can spot them a mile away. Like, as people, you're like, of course that person isn't doing it. Judging from their t-shirts and, say, the color of their hats. But their entire families with them are doing that. And then, and then some people, catch you off guard, they're behaving. So, there you go. Hi, Bisma. Lab Rats was canceled by Disney. Calm down. Don't repeat. Steady yourself. You'll be all right. I promise. Yeah, the Confederate flag diaper is a dead giveaway, especially when they're wearing it outside their clothing. All right, so tomorrow is Camden's birthday. We will indeed be having a show, though, because the party doesn't start till after our normal zone of things, and I've got to go pick up some things in the morning for it, and then we do it in the afternoon when other stuff. And yeah, it's just, yes, and I definitely sat with Camden on the flight. We were both together. You just kind of hunker down with your group. Each row had only parties that were together. Nobody's trying to sit next to a stranger on the plane right now. So it was just a fascinating, psychological adventure to go out into this. Now, that being said, having been in multiple targets, a couple of GNCs, 4 or 5 drive-thrus, and a couple of trips to grocery stores over the last month and a half, 2 months, the variance in who's there and who's taking care of themselves, there does seem to be a big group of people that I wouldn't call them political per se, but I would say that they are, I think they just consider themselves expendable unless they're tough. They have this kind of mental picture of themselves that, like, unless if you gotta die of something, man, that kind of attitude mixed with, if you're weak enough for this to get you, it's a sign of strength that you go out without a mask and all this stuff where the president won't wear a mask in public and all those kind of things. It's not that these people are necessarily his followers. I don't think most of them would even consider voting. Half of them look like they live in unplugged Airstream trailers in the middle of nowhere, but the general consensus with them seems to be like, on the one hand, who cares if you catch something, you gotta die of something. They have this kind of like, I doubt anybody who's tried meth on a whim is gonna worry about catching COVID. The other thing is I think that in their world, if you wear a mask, it's a sign of weakness. So they just don't, almost to like test themselves. It's just thanks, Adriana. You guys were missed too. I missed you guys. It's becoming a habit, you and I, us hanging out together. It's a nice habit, I gotta say. And it's sad when we can't do it. So let's see. And by the way, I'm not gonna say exactly where I flew to, but I will say it was nonstop. So that's all I'm gonna say. Howdy, Jess. Good to see you. Hi, folks on Twitch. Hello, Periscope. What's going on, YouTube? And everybody on who am I on? What's the other one today? Is it VK or Daily Motion? VK today. I have options for 4 streaming channels, so I pick a random one for the 4th one all the time. No offense, VK, whatever. So yay. All right, so let's get on with it. First of all, there's kind of a little like gaggle of things. So because I missed it yesterday and it wasn't all that long, we'll jump right into this. This is President Trump receiving a SpaceX demonstration mission to launch briefing. And it's just his intro to it. It's 3 minutes long, so it won't be there won't be much to it. I don't think, but I haven't watched it like I like to do. We take it fresh around here, kids. We just see how it really is. By the way, hopefully if audio is okay. Why the secret destination? Because I don't need the world to know where my kid lives the rest of the time. I mean, it's bad enough they know where he lives when he's with me. That'd be why. Just standard security protocol. Thank you, Benny Loco. Thanks for the thumbs up. Yeah, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Welcome. Spread the show around because we're just getting started. We're going to be a hard out at 5 o'clock today, my time, because we've got the family FaceTime that we always do. It's at a different time today. My audio's low. It is? Is it really? Because it looks pretty loud on my end. But I will boost it if that helps at all. See if it raises it up any. The top notch. Let's see. Noise suppression, gain. The gain's up it's pretty solid. It's up there in the yellow, but I'll bring it up a touch. Fine for you? Okay, so it might be, yeah. Oh, thank you. Love you too. Okay, everything sounds fine. That might just be the volume of your channel. Bisma, because it was too expensive and the kids were getting too old. That's Disney's reason. That's all I know. So all I am is an actor-director on the show. They don't tell me everything. All right, here we go. So this is from that thing. I will adjust the audio with him too to make sure it's loud enough. But here we go.
There's no precedent.
Hold on, wait. Start to.
Thank you very much. I just want to say this is a very exciting day for our country.
Well, until it was scrubbed. But
We have been at this long and hard for 3.5 years.
you were what? You were at this long and hard for 3.5 years?
Once it was reluctantly aroused. It was hard to get it aroused, and it is hard to get it aroused, but we got it aroused.
Probably why it took 3 years.
I want to thank Elon, who's been a friend of mine for a long time, somebody I have great respect for, but this is 24/7 for you. You're always thinking about this. You're thinking about other things, too. You have plenty to think about, but this is
I don't think about things.
your baby.
This is the top focus by far.
This is the toughest
Absolutely.
one.
In fact, I've told my team it's not simply the top priority, it is the only priority.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. Well, it looks beautiful. We won't say congratulations.
Aren't you working on ventilators a little bit ago? It's the top priority for everyone from South Africa.
We have a long way to go, but it looks magnificent.
You mean from here to space?
And I just want to thank everybody in the room. Jim, you took it over from its infancy.
Melania, great work. Excellent. Yeah, and everybody was saying if you squint, you can see a unicorn in her outfit.
And I was saying before they had grass growing in the runways between the cracks, and now we have the best of the best. And I want to thank again Vice President Mike Pence. He's worked so
friggin' grass, man. It's the enemy of progress.
hard. This has been a labor of love.
When is he going to outlaw grass?
And, great job, really a great job. But I want to thank everybody down here, and this is
on Earth.
Something that
Does he think he's in space? Thinks he's in space, doesn't he?
this lady and I look very much forward to seeing. And in a short while, that's going to be a liftoff. It looks like we're probably going to make it weather-wise, Jim. Is that right?
We are a go for launch right now.
That's a no.
Sounds very exciting. So I hope you all enjoy it. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Jim, would you like to say something?
I would love to, sir.
Just like kicking it, like we're halfway through this. You're like, bye. Oh, right.
I want to be really clear about the transformation that has happened right here at the Kennedy Space Center. And I say this because I know Bob Cabana has been the director of this center for...
It's pronounced Cabana.
12 years. 12 years. There was a time in our country, Mr. President, about 9 years ago, when the space shuttles were retired. And the United States of America has since then had no access to space with humans. We have not had any access. And this area of the country was absolutely devastated. And it was at a time when we also canceled the moon program. We had a great moon program that was underway. But because of the hard work of Bob Cabana throughout those times, and now we've got great support from the administration. NASA's budgets in nominal dollars are as high as they've ever been. We're bringing America back as it relates to human spaceflight. As you said, sir, there was a day when there was grass growing out of the runways. But now we not only...
They've been working on the Dreamcatcher ever since.
...only have the policy directive from the administration, we also have the
wisdom to know that ego is the only way to get funding in this administration.
To match that policy directive to put America preeminent in space, appointing the vice president to chair the National Space Council, was a brilliant move that has put.
Even though he believes the Earth is 4,000 years old and apparently thinks that there's a dome, and if you fly a rocket into it, that this is all fake.
It's in a position for success, and so we're hitting on all cylinders right now. I want to be clear.
Wait, how many strokes are this engine? Wait.
Today is a big day for the nation, and Elon, we're grateful for your labor of love that goes back a long time as well. So America we need to lead the world, sir, and you put us in a position to do that, and we're grateful.
Is that that's the White House's graphic. I was like, is that the satellite that they're building? It's like, we want a satellite that looks like the White House in space. We think this International Space Station should just be a copy.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Okay, that was exciting. So,
well, thank you very much.
Now, pause. So, that was a little, and there were a couple of things, Kayleigh McEnany, and this I don't like. The White House has been putting these videos up that are just like little commercials that are clearly campaign commercials that are so Kim Jong-un, it's ridiculous. But now they have started doing them without any speaking, because when it's super obvious that when Trump does his thing, here, I'll show you, it's 47 seconds long. And it's really weird too, because I get the montage part of this and the solemnity of it, but look at these shots of these guys standing at attention. Great. Watching Trump walk in. That's what this is about. They salute, so it looks like they're saluting him. When they're not, they're saluting the unknown soldier. Like, Melania is dead center in the middle of this. And it's like Pompeo is over there. Like, that's who's on the steps, kind of staggered. And then this shot, I don't understand. This is him walking up to the thing, to the wreath, and then doing his weird, like, leaning thing. Like, they're saluting him. It's healed, and then touches it, salutes it. While they're playing drums, you don't hear. And then they just stand there while he waddles and look somber. That's it. It's like a weird ad campaign. It is super weird. They do this, like, they've started doing these on the regular at the White House's website. But here, so Trump has decided, oh boy, and I gotta say, for Saturday, I'm gonna get the text of this social media or executive order. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say just for the record that I personally believe that this executive order is fart air, has no legal value whatsoever, and will fall apart under even the mildest legal scrutiny, and is also antithetical to everything that the Republican Party has supposedly stood for forever. So the president signing an executive order that private companies that choose to police or limit the use of their company are now liable the way editorial newspapers are, when, by the way, those are really loose anyways, with no evidence that they are doing anything contrary. And everything that the social media groups are going, like about COVID on YouTube, for example, or some conspiracy stuff, or like when they put a little disclaimer about Sandy Hook under all the Alex Jones videos and stuff like that, they're letting you find out on your own, but they're saying, by all the facts, this is where the numbers are. You can still think the numbers are fake, but this is what they are. And this is because he got called out on his bullshit about mail-in ballots. So he's going to sign this executive order, and we're going to get some finger reading, I can tell. There's a newspaper to his right with some notes written on it. Like, and by the way, all the Republicans who are watching this think this is bold as hell. They think this is a sign of strength. Yeah, so here we go. This is the
In American history for so small a number of corporations to control so large a sphere of human interaction, and that includes individual
Do they
people
control it?
controlling vast amounts of.
Do they control it? I mean, they own it. So I'm just real clear. What is the president saying here? But for ISIS should be allowed to have a Twitter feed.
Territory, and we can't allow that to happen.
Territory? Oh, how much land does your Twitter feed take up? Hold on, let's scroll back because we missed the first couple of sentences of this nonsense.
There's no precedent in American history for so small a number of corporations to control so large a sphere of human interaction.
Wait, hold on. No precedent? You mean the Hearst newspapers?
And that includes individual people controlling vast amounts of territory, and we.
You mean the stock, like people who own stock in Twitter and Facebook? You mean those people?
Can't allow that to happen.
Why not? Why can't you allow private companies who own private websites that take up no physical space, that only serve a portion of the populace that chooses to use them? Yeah.
Especially when they go about doing what they're doing because they're doing things incorrectly. They have.
Oh, really? What's the correct way to do things?
Points of view, and if we go by that, it's actually amazing that there was a success in 2016, but we can't let this continue.
If they go by the point of view of the social media giants, it'd be amazing that there was a success in 2016. You do realize Facebook was paid in rubles to post political ads when they were legally not supposed to.
Happen. It's very, very unfair.
Is it? Oh, guys, it's really unfair to him, okay? Very unfair.
And you look at the statistics.
Fairness is so important in private business. It's fairness. Really?
And you look at what is going on, and I think everybody would very much agree with that.
No. First of all, we can't agree with gibberish. Secondly, explain yourself.
Including Democrats, by the way. I saw quite a few Democrats are saying this is about time something is done. So let's see if they keep that.
Really? I think the something they want done is, or say apparently Twitter was this close to being bought by a right-wing investment group, and they were trying to kick Dorsey out, right? And then all of a sudden, this is all right.
Decision after they hear that we agree with them.
Really? Do you agree with them? Are the Democrats calling for censorship?
The choices that Twitter makes when it chooses to suppress, edit, blacklist, shadow, ban.
Okay, first of all, shadow ban is a fantasy. There's no evidence of it. When they do show evidence of it, it's like, look at my ratio. It's totally off. I don't get it. Totally people like my stuff, but if you look at the thing, according to this, nobody likes my stuff. Like, okay, maybe you suck. Maybe your own viewers, maybe all the bots are asleep right now. Maybe the Macedonian hacker farm that normally boosts your shit through the roof is on lunch.
Are editorial decisions, pure and simple. They're editorial decisions.
Yeah, but they're also health and safety decisions. See, like a movie theater owner doesn't make editorial decisions on the movie. They make financial decisions on the movie. They do make decisions on whether or not the patrons can yell fire in the place, so that the other patrons think that the theater's on fire and leave.
In those moments, Twitter ceases to be a neutral public platform, and they become.
Who says it's a neutral public platform? It's a private company. They'll take your money to boost and post all you want.
Editor with a viewpoint, and I think we can say that about others also, whether you're looking at Google, whether you're looking at Facebook. And
Google, as far as the SEO searches, you mean? Like, boo-hoo.
Perhaps others.
Or maybe more people are reading bad news about you because there's more bad news to read than are reading good news about you because there's significantly less. And the bad news about you gets boosted to it looks like he's even listening. I know he isn't. He's incapable of it. But his eyes look fantastic. No bags. Not green, gray, or anything. least his cheeks aren't blotchy orange. Honest to God, it looks like one of those like wallpapering at home kits. Look at the blotchiness. I honestly, it's like a monster.
One egregious example is when they try to silence views that they disagree with by some.
Like ISIS and Al Qaeda and sex traffickers and serial killers who have manifestos. Yeah, why would they shut down the Unabomber?
Actively applying a fact check, FAC.
Yeah, we know how to spell it. Just because you had trouble reading it doesn't mean we don't know what's going on.
Fact check.
As opposed to what? Facts check?
What they choose to fact check and what they choose to ignore or even promote is nothing more than a political activism group. Or
oh yeah? Oh, really? Because the president of the United States says a certain thing that is actually false, and they are now the delivery system. Couldn't you just quit this entire... You could quit all social media and have a website? Like, maybe if the White House had its own web page, you could just post your stuff there. Wouldn't know... Oh!
Political
adrenochrome.
Activism. And it's inappropriate. You look at what's happened, you look at where they're going, where they're coming from.
Where they've been, what's on the left, what's on the right, what's on the up. You put your left leg in, you put your right wing out.
I think you all see it yourselves. This censorship.
Do we? Do we all see it ourselves?
Bias is a threat to freedom itself.
Is it? Really? Does anybody feel like if you couldn't post pictures of your genitals on MySpace, you wouldn't be able to take a shower in the nude? Do you think you're...
Imagine if your phone company silenced or edited your conversation.
They can't because it's directly speaking to another party. But there are broadcasting rules. But I mean, it's a dumb analogy.
Companies have vastly more power and more reach than any phone company in the United States. More reach actually than your newspapers by far. More reach than a lot of your traditional forms of communication.
Is reach or content important? Just because something, I mean, commercials have more reach than content directly. Because, like, an ad for the same toilet paper is all over left-wing, right-wing websites, news, fictional television shows. So commercials technically have more reach. Does that mean they have more value or are more trustworthy?
Therefore, today I'm signing an executive order to protect and uphold the free speech and rights of the American people.
You have free speech. You just don't get to say shit wherever you want. Like, I could say stuff on YouTube and get my stuff taken down if I chose to, like a maniac.
Currently, social media giants like Twitter receive an unprecedented liability shield based on the theory that they're a neutral platform, which...
Yeah, they are. Like a movie theater is a neutral platform.
They're not.
That doesn't mean you get to freewheel in there. There's a difference between, like, because this is basically an argument that if ISIS has one person in the United States, then they should be allowed full Twitter accounts with no limitations.
Not an editor with a viewpoint. My executive order...
What's the viewpoint? You said that there was a lot of fraud with mail-in ballots, and there is no evidence to support said claim. That's not a viewpoint issue. That's like if your doctor tweeted that you were 6'3" and weighed 239 pounds, and somebody saw you on a scale, and saw you next to someone who's actually 6'3", and tweeted that part of it as an addendum, as it were. But the part with hydroxychloroquine and voting, where you're trying to actually manipulate the vote count and get people killed.
Calls for new regulations under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act.
Ooh, decency. We're going back to decency and obscenity. Great. Please institute on all social media the full power of the obscenity and decency laws. See how long your account stays up.
Make it that social media companies that engage in censoring or any political conduct will not be able to
any political conduct. They pay taxes. Free speech allows you to institute any political voice.
keep their liability shield. That's a big
I mean, the Twitter bird is blue.
deal. They have a shield. They can do what they want. They have a shield. They're not going to have that shield.
Yeah, that's going to fail miserably. Try doing that, though. This is garbage.
My executive order further instructs the Federal Trade Commission, FTC,
to shove its head up its own ass and bark like a dog, because that will have all the legal power of this piece of paper.
to prohibit social media companies from engaging in any deceptive acts or practices affecting commerce.
Affecting commerce? Wait. Any deceptive acts or practices affecting commerce? You mean like inflating the worth of your business so you can get a loan? In the same year, releasing documents to two different organizations that value the rent in one of your buildings at $13 million and $16 million in the same year to get a loan for $76 million? You mean like that? Then, I mean, are you and Jack Dorsey going to share a cell then?
This authority resides in Section 5 of the Federal Trade Commission Act. I think you know it pretty well. Most
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, we've all read that, right? The Federal Trade Commission.
of you know it very well.
Do
I
we?
think you know it quite well, right?
Yeah. Explain it. Paraphrase it for us.
Additionally, I'm directing the Attorney General
To explain to the American people why my hands are this color and my face is another.
to work cooperatively with the states
Or, sure, collaborative. Wait, what was that again? Missed that. Hold on.
cooperatively with the states. He's going to
Collaborative with the states? He's going to work in total collaboration with the states?
be working very much and very closely in cooperation with the states to
Yeah, get back up and get another run at it.
enforce their own laws against such deceptive business
Thanks, Jimmy.
practices. The states have broad and powerful authority to regulate, and
Yeah, let's have every state attack social media platforms from different political angles. This is genius. So, if Chevron or Exxon or BP or any of the private oil people in Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, if those folks give money to one particular politician or another, does that not interfere with commerce by affecting them effectively lobbying for what they want from the government? So wouldn't they be able to be their free speech to be shut down? Can there be Exxon ads now? Are they gone? Thank you, Bean Toes. Thank you, Joe Carter.
arena, and they'll be doing it also, and we encourage them to do it.
Great. You're encouraging all states to file lawsuits against Twitter. Cool. Blue states, I highly recommend you guys file a bunch of injunctive lawsuits against Twitter and Facebook because the veracity of Trump's claims are, because they have not verified the veracity of Trump's claims before they printed them, and his statements about hydroxychloroquine have endangered lives materially, have led to people getting sick and dying, and he is and so blame Twitter and Facebook and get them all shut down. We'll all move on. We'll find something else. You guys can all jump in here. This is a private cyclical thing on YouTube. We don't need anybody else. Just us. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. You and I.
They see exactly as we've been seeing.
No one does. And somebody turn your phone off.
What they're doing is tantamount to monopoly, you can say. It's tantamount.
No, it isn't. It's not tantamount to monopoly. You're talking about multiple sites. Thank you, Just Dollface. Right? Can someone check me on this? Am I losing my mind? Am I out of my mind here?
To taking over the airwaves?
Taking over the airwaves. Okay, tinfoil hat. You do realize this shit lives in your phone, right?
Can't let it happen.
It didn't happen. You can avoid Twitter's influence? or manipulation of what you're saying, go somewhere else. Go to like mines or counter. What is it? Counter intel. I'm missing the Counter Strike. What's the counter? I'm missing because of the game. I've got gaming on the mind. Jester's site. You can open up and operate in multiple chat rooms on Discord. We've got a public Discord if you want to join that. That's a good place to hang out. Lots of things in there. Thank you, Joe. Or you could just read the news and study for yourself.
We're not going to have a democracy. We're not going to have anything to do with a republic.
Really? You're telling me we didn't have a functioning democracy and republic before we had social media? So you're the first Twitter president, is what we're saying.
Finally,
Thank
I'm
you,
directing my administration to develop policies and procedures to ensure taxpayer dollars are not going in any social media company that repress free speech. The government.
So I guess your campaign's not going to be paying any money to social media campaigns, right? Because obviously they're manipulating stuff. So clearly.
It spends billions of dollars on giving them money.
Really? We spend billions of dollars on social media? You mean in ads?
They're rich enough, so we're going to be doing none of it or very little of it.
Really? What's the very little part going to be? Pushing hydroxychloroquine?
As president, I'll not allow the American people to be bullied by these giant corporations.
Oh, no, I'm being bullied. Oh, I did not realize. I've been given a wedgie by Twitter.
Many people have wanted this to be done by presidents.
Yeah, all the way back to Andrew Jackson. Why the hell didn't Reagan do anything about Twitter? That's what I want to know.
For a long time.
Yeah, ever since you showed up on Twitter, people have been going, is there a way to broom the filth out of this dump?
And now we're doing it, and I'm sure they'll be doing a lawsuit, and I'm also sure that we're going to be going...
You're going to lose it?
...legislation in addition to this.
And that the Republicans on the Supreme Court are going to be as ferociously against this horse shit as anybody else.
And the legislation will start immediately. And I tell you, I've been called by...
Yeah, the legislation will start immediately. What? Start oozing out of Devin Nunes's backside onto a piece of paper so Jim Jordan can, while he's ignoring more rapes in Ohio, can sign his name and poop on it and mail it to the Supreme Court and watch what happens. Good Lord.
Democrats that want to do this, and so
now, Democrats want they wanted you bounced off for violating the terms of service of Twitter like every other person would be, because we're a democracy and no one is better than anyone else or above the law. So if a social media platform establishes a set of rules, everybody should be forced to follow them. So we know that everybody's on the same page. Web page, of course. They're not real pages. I hope you know that Twitter's not a book. Because, well, of course he knows. He would never open a book. Thank you, Jill Carter.
I think you could possibly have a bipartisan situation.
No, not with this. This is silly.
But we're fed up with it, and it's unfair.
We're fed up. Who's we? You and Jacob Wall?
And it's been very unfair.
Aww.
And we'll see what happens. Any questions?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Here's what will happen. That's what's going to happen.
Questions?
Yeah, any questions? Yeah, how is this not like Russia or China?
President, given your concern with Twitter, have you given any consideration to deleting your account, to just walking away from this platform?
Look at the look on his face. Are you insane? It's my life. Without Twitter, I am nothing.
Platform you've been so critical of?
Well, you know, if you weren't fake, I would not even think about it. I would do that in a heartbeat.
I'm real,
but
sir.
the news is fake. If you look at...
So the news is fake, so you're on social media. Why don't you just have a website then? You don't think people would look at your webpage? The White House has a webpage. Donald Trump has a website. Put your own stuff on there. Get off of social media. You're the president of the United States. You don't think people would go there to see what you have to say?
It gets printed in newspapers. If only the public could understand where, you know, they're reading a story and they think it's real, and it's not real in so many cases. And I'm not saying...
Yeah, and your tweets are?
In every case. You have some great journalists. You have some journalists that I have great respect for, but
all of them are male, and most of them work for Fox News.
largely, I find, at least in a political sense, there's so much fake news, it's disgraceful. I would do that in a heartbeat if we had a fair press in this country, I would do that in a heartbeat. There's nothing I'd rather do than get rid of my whole Twitter account.
Oh, wouldn't that let's just all bask in that for a moment. Good night.
But I'm able to get to, I guess, 186 million people when you add up all the different accounts and add Facebook.
Yeah, and add Russia and add
Instagram.
Romania and Czechoslovakia and Greece, and
it's a lot of people, and that's
a lot of bots.
More than the media companies have, frankly, by a lot. And so if I get a story that's wrong, I can put a social media. I don't usually use the word Twitter. I say social media, but I put something out and.
Really? What other social media sites are you on? I'm serious. The orange is freaking me out today because his hands match his eyes, but not his face and his ears. This is like white trash prom makeup.
The next day or the next hour or the next minute, everybody's reading about it. So I'm able to refute fake.
Whether it's true or not. Remember, it used to be a witch hunt with Captain Orange, so it's a cauldron instead of a kettle.
And that's very important. I'd like to ask the Attorney General, please, to say a couple of words, and he's very strongly behind it, backing it very powerfully, and.
Yeah, he looks super excited.
And we're going to be doing this. We're also going through Congress.
Yeah, you're going to have to, because he knows full well, like everybody else, that this will not stand a First Amendment test at all.
Well, as you mentioned, Mr. President, one of the things that I found has the broadest bipartisan support these days is the feeling that this provision, Section 230, has been stretched way beyond its original intention, and people feel that on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, that's for different reasons. That's like saying a bunch of people are against the Affordable Care Act. Half the people who are against the Affordable Care Act or have negative views of it are Republicans who hate it and will always hate it. The other half are people who just don't think it goes far enough. They actually want more than the ACA. So if you take that statistic, then it makes it look like 60% of people don't like something. When you drill down and you start asking them, well, do you think it goes far enough? The number spikes the other direction, and you get 70-30. Same thing here. Republicans in the QAnon fantasy world think they're being shadow banned because they're not liked enough on websites, including the president. God damn, that's a weird orange color. It's super weird. Just saying, my face and my ears and my neck are all the same. And my hands are slightly lighter, I think. Yeah, they're slightly lighter than my face, but that might be a lighting thing. Yeah, so that's the difference. And I've been wearing gloves out all the time. That might have something to do with it. He's not. But nothing, like my eyes and this part and this part, it's creeping me out.
This was adopted 25 years ago to protect the fledgling industry.
Oh, the fledgling.
Its purpose was to allow websites that were serving as essentially bulletin boards for diverse third-party content coming on to say that you're not responsible for the content of that third-party information. And it also tried to encourage these companies to take down things like child pornography or human trafficking advertising and things by saying if you act to remove this kind of objectionable material, you won't be liable for taking it down. Now it's been completely stretched to allow
not allow the president to make medical decisions for large people and suggest things that might kill them.
Would have become really behemoths who control a lot of the flow of information in our society, to engage in censorship of that information, and to act as editors and publishers of the material.
Do they push stuff or do you promote stuff? I mean, do you guys all read the big Twitter morning briefing? Me neither, because it doesn't exist.
So when they put on their own content, like fact check content onto other people's content.
Yeah, because the option is to remove the president's account. This is mitigatory. This is them kissing his ass. Everybody else, they would just dump your account. You'd just be locked out. But they can't lock him out because he's the president of the United States, and he'll freak out and all his crazy gun nut friends will roll up on Twitter headquarters. So they created a mitigatory step. We're going, actually, they put an asterisk next to your bullshit.
And when they curate their collection and when they start
how does Twitter work, Barr? Explain to me how Twitter works. What's the algorithm they use? What's the baseline for the AI that controls the millions and millions and millions of accounts?
Particular content, including, in many cases, at the direction of foreign governments like Communist China, they become...
Really? Communist China is the one censoring Trump's account? What?
Publishers. And they shouldn't be entitled to the same kind of shield that was set up earlier. Now, this...
Explain to me how Communist China is in control of Twitter's feed. Am I being... Wait a minute. As a Democrat, because President Trump is friends with President Xi. Is that why I've stalled out on Twitter followers over the last little bit? Is that why they're scooping out all my... any bots that follow me? Huh.
Executive order is a very strong step toward addressing...
A very strong step.
This...
Yeah, into a pile of dog shit.
Problem. It sets up a rulemaking procedure.
You're stomping a bag of dog crap on fire on your stoop. Look at Trump. Oh, God. I wish I was napping right now.
That will eventually be under the FCC to try to get back to the original
Welcome to the death of social media. Goodbye and good riddance.
Interpretation and understanding of Section 230. It also empowers the Attorney General.
He's reading it off the paper. What does this thing say again? Oh, those are the notes on the page. Look, he's cribbing off the notes next to the president in big red letters. See that?
To work with state attorneys general to come up with model legislation that addresses this at the state level.
So he's working with Republican governors to what? Sue Twitter and Facebook? And how far? YouTube? Are we going to Snapchat now? Is he going to sue Snapchat for not having any Trump filters that he likes that make him look attractive? Why are all the Trump filters orange?
And we're preparing federal legislation, which...
Yeah, he's going to grab Twitter by the vagina.
We will be sending over shortly for review at the Office of Management and Budget.
Yeah, so you're going to send this over. So you're just going to sign it and then send it to OMB to have them review it. Where they'll go, yeah, what do you want me to do? Put this in the public bathroom or the private bathroom?
So this is an important...
I mean, it's going to be put to the same use either way.
Step to get back to the original understanding. You know, there's a bit of a bait and switch that's occurred in our society. These companies grew because they held themselves out as public forums, as free public forums where a variety of voices and diverse voices could come on and be heard.
And then the Russians and ISIS and child pornographers and rapists and serial killers and prisoners with computer access and in long-term prison, and violent felons basically were pretending to be 15-year-old kids and 12-year-olds and contacting people. Then they started having to go, hey, tap the brakes.
That's how they grew. That's how they attracted the eyeballs. That's why people joined them. But now that they have become...
Yeah, but we didn't join going, gee, I hope somebody can lie to me with impunity. Wouldn't that be fun?
These very powerful networks of eyeballs, now that they've grown by holding themselves out as free public forums, they've now...
regulated freedom. You know what? When I bought a car, I thought I could drive everywhere. Now that I'm on the White House lawn, they're opening fire on my car. This ain't freedom.
Switched, and they are using that market.
I thought, at least, I'm proud to be an American where at least I know I'm free. Why can I not urinate in a mall if I so choose? Urination isn't legal. Going to the mall isn't illegal. Did I say urination isn't legal? I get so dumb when I do a southern accent. It's painful. Why, if I can pee and I can shop, why can't I pee while I shop? Why are they dragging me out of the store?
Power to force particular viewpoints, and that's wrong. And
Is it really? Why wouldn't word just get out that that's what they do on the site, and if you don't want to do that, you either form your own. There are several other sites. Check out BitChute and Minds if you don't believe me.
to be addressed not only.
It's just that it's a little corner of the internet full of like self-filleting psychopaths. They want access to everybody else. That's why they're on there.
To this executive order, but I think
if we can't get the propaganda out into the people themselves, what good is it? Obviously, we all buy the propaganda. We wouldn't be wearing these smart outfits and ordering more train cars. But if we can't get it into the beer halls, what good is it?
Litigation going forward, and by further action on Capitol Hill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, do you have any questions for?
Do you have any questions for him? Because I don't know what I just signed.
Yes, actually, I do, Mr. Attorney General.
What is the legal basis for this steaming pile of dog shit you are calling legislation?
Have you been against Section 230, and the President has been against Section 230? The Vice President has said he's against Section 230. Do you believe that the executive order that the President is about to sign in any way repeals or amends Section 230?
No, it doesn't repeal Section 230, and I'm not against.
It doesn't. What is it? Is that good or bad, repealing or not repealing? We're going to just say it's something very strong. Say I'm doing something strong. Lee. Put Lee on the end of it, like Big Lee.
Section 230, if it was properly interpreted and properly applied, but it's been stretched, and I don't know of anyone on Capitol Hill who doesn't agree that it's been stretched beyond its original intention. I think this will help get back to the right balance.
Mr. Attorney. Really? The balance? Okay, who's the arbiter of what counts as a violation of 230 then, after you sign this?
I don't know, can you give...
So, if the President puts up a picture of his inauguration and says that it is bigger than Obama's, and you can clearly see from pictures put side to side that it isn't, is anyone allowed to disagree with him? Or we all just have to go, if it's on Twitter, it has to be true?
More details on the legislation both you and the President refer to. What do you want to do in that legislation?
Well, we're still reviewing a number.
We don't know. This is all bullshit. We gave him something to sign because he was mad. That's what this is. They gave him something totally useless to sign.
Possibilities, and it'd be premature for me to discuss.
And one of the things we may do, Bill, is just remove or totally change 230. What I think we can
Do that. Pass that through a Republican Senate.
say is we're going to regulate it. It's a provision, and we're going to regulate it. You take a look at this.
You're adding regulations. That's what we're doing. So we'd like to say that the President is adding speech regulations to private companies.
As an example, this was just out. Twitter moments on the Mueller witch hunt. So we won. We were in the right.
No.
See what's happened. It's a total fraud. It was a total fraud. 76-1.
Yeah. People make Twitter moments. Twitter doesn't make Twitter moments. Accounts make them. So on Twitter, apparently, 76-1, the people who know how to use Twitter moments and give a shit about the issue were categorizing the negative ones. Here's the other thing, is that there was far less evidence in your favor. Still.
Okay, 70.
What were you expecting, 50-50? Poor baby.
To 1. You look at it. You think that's fair?
Yes, I do think that's fair. If your people don't know how to make a Twitter moment out of a series of tweets that they put together, and by the way, boy did that thing fall apart. Nobody uses Twitter moments anymore, it just gacked stuff up. It was an option you could build yourself. That just means on Twitter, the people who actually put together moments it was 76-1 that they were negative towards Trump because there was a lot more evidence against you than there was for you, and there were a lot more people gathering that together that used Twitter moments and took advantage of the feature. Twitter moments were not created or managed or pushed or designed or influenced by Twitter.
Classifies the term illegal alien as hate speech. Illegal alien.
Yeah. That's their right.
And viciously. You look at what
viciously categorizes it as hate speech, and they viciously did it. Well, I'm sure that they would think that you using it was vicious. And personally, I don't have a problem again with illegal and all that stuff. Like that argument, I think is a waste of time. Honest to God, it doesn't diminish someone's worth. It's not about their humanity. It's about their activity. But they have the right to do that. They are a private company.
I mean, just article after article.
Yeah, I see 4 pieces of paper.
Here's one. This is our.
Uh-oh, we're holding up the Post.
This is the arbiter. This guy.
We're holding up the New York Post. Aren't they the ones that put out nude pictures of Melania?
Is the arbiter of what's supposed to go.
So, the Ministry of Tweet.
On Twitter. He's the one he thought that.
Do you think he combs through all the tweets?
He thought, and if you use CNN as a guide, CNN, which is fake news, he uses CNN as a guide. His name is Yoel Roth, and he's the one that said that mail-in balloting, you look mail-in, no fraud.
Yeah, there is no evidence that it favors either side or that there's massive fraud. If you want to argue that there's massive fraud in it, if it doesn't show evidence to favor either side, and there's some evidence that say Democrats do it more often or Republicans do it more often, you will see evidence that the ballot harvesting you're talking about happens on one side or the other. Now, considering the vast majority of mail-in ballots who aren't up till now, that aren't military or people actually working in government who live there half the time who are mailing in their ballots or something along those lines, vast majority are college-educated people. They have a tendency to be Democratic. That's it. Yeah, he doxed a guy from the White House. Yep.
No fraud, really? Why don't you take a look all over the country? There's cases all over the country.
No, there aren't. There are not cases all over the country. Sorry, am I in violation of the new rule because I'm on YouTube right now on a social media network and I'm asterisking this bullshit as it flows out of his orange face?
If we went to mail-in balloting, our election all over the world would look as a total joke.
No, it would. You vote by mail. Kayleigh McEnany votes by mail. I mean, if anything you do is the standard for being a joke, it's obviously a problem. By the way, nice Benny Hinn hair today.
It would be a total joke. There's such fraud and abuse.
No, there isn't.
And you know.
Give me the numbers. Make it up, or like.
About harvesting, where they harvest the ballots and they go and grab them and they go to people's houses and they say, sign here. No.
Oh yeah, by force. Are all those? Who's calling this in? Show us the reports. Don't just anecdotally. If there's all this stuff, if there's so many of these things, why aren't we seeing any of them? Why are we not seeing the courts just packed? If there's hundreds of cases of this, the courts would be packed with this stuff. It's a right. You have the right to vote. A violation. You don't think there are people who wouldn't tout their rights have been violated? They're being forced to vote against their will?
Doesn't work out. Now,
what evidence? Where is it? Yeah, 148 instances of fraud in the last 10 years. What kind of an idiot is going to, for whatever kind of paycheck, do massive ballot harvesting where every instance of interrupting the mail, having the person sign their name or vote fraudulently, in both cases, that's 2 counts, and then mailing the ballot or delivering it without it being mailed, that's 5 years apiece. Who's going to do 20 years potentially for every vote they take in. Who are these people? Who are these hardened criminals who are so either idiotic or bullish as criminals that they think they're going to get away with it? Who are they? You're going to do, who's going to do 20 years per vote for 1,000 votes in some area? Who are these people? How dumb are they? Who's hiring them? Where's the paycheck? Where's the dollar sign that comes from, like the check or the cash that came in that went from the RNC or the DNC or the Jill Stein group who rolls in and punches old lady, sign this or blah, 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 in front of 90 other old women in an old folks home? What is this? Thanks, Georgina. Who's going to do 20 years for a single vote? And if they are, get them. I don't care who they're voting for. Mail-in ballots. There is more fraud involved in stealing a mailed-in ballot than there is in showing up and fraudulently voting in person. But that's just one count. You're not interfering with the mail, which is a federal crime. I mean, does it make sense? Am I missing something here? Who the hell is doing 20 years for every vote they bring in a pile of votes from an old folks home? And how many would you have to do to not get, I mean, this is moon landing level conspiracy. You know what I mean? Like, you know how they always say, like, how could you fake the moon landing? Because all the people that would have to keep it secret. How many people would have to keep thousands of stolen ballots secret? How many hundreds? He's talking about hundreds of thousands. He's talking about 3 million votes in California alone. He's talking about millions of votes across the country. Each one, the person perpetrating the crime could serve 5 years for each count. And it's a phone call to bust them. With all the phones and the, contact that people have, there's no, the lovely man from the vote getters was here and he picked up all our votes and took them in. We didn't even have to fill them. Mom, what are you talking about? Yeah, we didn't have to fill them out. We just signed them and he took over everything. Isn't democracy wonderful? Mom, what the hell are you talking about? Don't let anybody have your vote. Who else did this? Everyone. I'll be right there. Where did that happen once? Once. Say it. Find it. You have the head of the DO. Your attorney general is right there. I'm a little miffed, you could say, Jim. I don't think they realize, because he says so much of the whole, there's hundreds of thousands and hundreds of thousands and hundreds of thousands of this. You're going to do 20 years per vote for 100,000 votes, for 1 million votes? Who's gathering this up? Who are these people? Are it the same 10 people in one state who go old folks home to old folks, and they belong to some sort of network, and they drive up to each one, or they go up to apartment buildings, just scoop ballots, and they sign them fake, and nobody, by the way, at the Secretary of State's office checks the signatures, which they're supposed to do on the envelopes with the one that you signed that's printed on the little schematic that they get that has all the votes in it when they go in and they scan them. Who's doing 20 years for voter fraud per vote?
Absentee ballot, you can't be there or you're sick, and you go and you register and you do all sorts of things to get that ballot.
Yeah, that's what happens. That's why people do it. And in the middle of a pandemic, people are concerned that they might not be safe going to a public place to vote in the very near future, so they would like the option of mailing it in. Now, they can also sign their ballot, fill it out, and drive it to the polling place for the joy of voting in person themselves.
and there's good security measures, but where they send out, like in California, millions and millions of ballots to anybody
They sent out applications.
that's breathing.
They sent out applications to all registered voters.
Anybody in California that's breathing gets a ballot.
No, anybody who's in California. So wait a minute, didn't Kayleigh McEnany say that dead people were voting? So at least we've eliminated that.
But Mr. President, that's not true.
So
California is.
Excuse me, wait a minute, I'm not finished. So
Yeah, well, Mr. President, that's not true, actually.
here's your man, and that's on Twitter. And the amazing thing is he's wrong, and even no matter who it is, they will admit that he's wrong. Because
No, they won't. What do you mean, no matter who it is, they will admit that he's wrong? I don't admit that he's wrong.
there's tremendous controversy on mail-in voting.
No, there isn't. There isn't tremendous controversy. You see that you are losing, and you are freaking out.
And I can say this, the Republican Party cannot let it happen.
Because they'll never get elected again if everybody can vote. Again, you want voter ID, then create a national picture voter ID for all citizens, tracked to your social security number, and cleared when you're 18 to allow you to vote. Automatic voter registration at 18 years old for all U.S. citizens, and a photo ID that goes with it. And it qualifies as a state ID across all borders. It's a real ID. You get that through the Republican Party, then we'll talk. And then on top of that, auto-register citizens to vote and have a mandatory 20 years for illegal voting. You'll have 12 people in jail, and half of them will be Ann Coulter.
Go ahead.
Well, you know Gavin Newsom, Governor Newsom, has not sent ballots out to everybody in California. They're only going to registered voters.
How many are
So,
there? How many are
so what your tweet said was not wrong.
Okay,
That was not correct. It was wrong.
Okay. Oh, really? So
Yeah, really. You only send out ballots and applications to registered voters.
when he sends out 28 million ballots, and they're in all the mailboxes, and kids go and they raid the mailboxes, and they hand them to people that are signing the ballots down the end of the street, which is happening.
Is it happening? Where's the video? Where's the pictures? Where are the kids being interviewed on the news saying, I did that and this is the house I took it to? This is such a giant crime. You can get kids saying this about drug dealers, but you can't get this to say about voting? Are you
They
kidding?
have the ballots. You don't think that happens? There's ballot harvesting where all of us, we had 7 elections for Congress, and they were like tied, and they lost every one of them because they came and they dropped a whole pile of ballots on the table.
You'd only count the mail-in ballots on election day.
But you don't think they rip them out of mailboxes? It's all the time. You read about it. You can read about
You don't read about it all the time.
it. Take a look. They do worse than that.
They do worse than that. What do they
In
do?
some cases, they won't sell them, like to a Republican community, a conservative community. They don't happen to send the ballots to those communities.
That's the Secretary of State. What do you mean they don't send them? That's not even voter fraud. That's the state. That's the Secretary of State not delivering ballots to people. That's illegal. What are you talking about? Then throw the Secretary of State in jail. You guys know how important voting is to me. Vote.org. I don't even care if you agree with me. I want you to vote. I want everybody to vote. Everyone. Everyone who is a registered voter, 18 years or older, U.S. citizen, I want you to vote. Even if I totally disagree with you, I want you to have the ease and ability to vote, period. I want no voter fraud. I don't want anybody who isn't a citizen voting. I don't want anybody who's here on a non-resident visa voting, any of that. I want 18 and over U.S. citizens voting. As a matter of fact, I'm for a $50 tax fine if you don't vote, because it's so integral to our democracy. That said, these guys believe that Democrats, go to vote.org, make sure you're registered, first of all and foremost. Then understand that this guy is concerned that if everybody votes, they will lose. He lost the popular vote by 3 million votes last time. He lives in a fantasy world where that somehow can't end up working with the Electoral College. The Republicans know this. Look at the Paul Weyrich quote from the Heritage Foundation. They've been fighting votes forever. So here's my thing. Everybody's registered vote from their 18th birthday. Automatic voter registration when you turn 18, whether you have a driver's license or not. It's a federal thing. It's a federal right, and it should be federally available to everyone. If you want voter ID so that everybody's picture and their signature matches their voting thing, then the federal government supplies everyone with a U.S. voter ID free of charge, because there can be no poll taxes, there can be no expense to a right. You shouldn't have to. It shouldn't cost you money to express a right. Okay? And then, but they'll never do that, because, like, I'm saying this, like, these are supposedly things I'm not supposed to be for, right? I'm not supposed to be for voter ID. I am for voter ID. If you give it to everyone equally, free of charge, do it. Go for it. You will never get this through the Republican Party, and the Republicans will refuse to use it. They will view it as a mark of the beast, QAnon, like world government, UN plot to track and trace everybody.
And there's no way of checking. No, you have to
There's tons of way of checking.
go and you have to vote. Voting is a great thing.
Yeah, then why are you fraudulently registered to vote in Florida? You do not have a residence in Florida. You do not live at Mar-a-Lago. You are not allowed to count Mar-a-Lago as a residence. You live in the White House. Why are you not registered to vote in Washington, D.C.?
We would be the laughing stock of the world. And if you just use common sense, you know that's going to happen. But
No, we don't. Why would it be common sense? Every ballot has a unique, either a UPC code, or in some cases they're starting to use QR codes, and a unique signature because you sign your registration. On the sheet that the registrar of voters person that counts your ballot goes through, they have that number, and they have a digital printout of your signature, and it has to match. If it's just a scribbly from some guy down the street and it looks nothing like your actual signature, they'll throw it out. You won't even be informed. You will lose your right to vote. Your vote will be thrown out if your signature does not match. This is just goofy.
raid the mailboxes. They can even print ballots. They get the same.
No, they can't. Everyone has a unique UPC symbol on it.
Paper, the same machine, nothing special. They get.
Really? So the master forgers in the country are working nonstop on millions of ballots because what, they've given up on the $50 bill?
The same paper, the same machine. They print ballots, and Bill would have to do a great job to catch him doing it, or your state.
What do you mean he would have to do a great job to catch them? Yeah, like he'd have a rough time catching Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster. You know, Bill's been looking, he looks a little bit like the green ghost from Ghostbusters. He could probably help catch ghosts.
Authorities would have to.
Who are you going to call?
But you have tremendous potential, and you have tremendous fraud and abuse, but you have tremendous potential for fraud and abuse. Go ahead.
Why now? Why potential for fraud? What does potential mean? Are we passing laws against potential? Are we at like pre-crime now? Is this Minority Report?
Mr. President, you had said in one of your tweets that you would consider shutting down Twitter and social media companies. Did you actually?
Yeah, do that. Please allow the next president to shut down private companies that displease the king.
You mean you would want to shut down an
Well,
American
I think
company?
it's going to be, I tell you what, I have so much, it seems, influence over Twitter in the sense of people wanting to go Twitter because of what I have. I have a vast number, we have a number of platforms, as you know. We have millions and millions of people. I think if Twitter were not honorable, if you're going to have a guy like this be your judge and jury, I think you shut it down as far as I'm concerned, but I'd have to go through a legal process to do that.
How would you shut down an
You couldn't shut down a private company over First Amendment concerns. Are you high? What Republican? Is this what MAGA wanted? Really? This is what MAGA wanted. You would be happy with Obama shutting down Twitter because he didn't like the way they were handling his tweets. You're cool, right? You're cool with that. Or whoever the next president is. You think so? Your nightmare happens. Biden wins. Next year, Facebook is running ads from companies that he doesn't like. And he's like, you know what? They're allowing this stuff. So I'm going to shut it down for allowing it. Because Trump was going to shut it down for disallowing it. The law doesn't see, A to B, B to A. It's just the transverse action. So who gives a shit? Shutting it down. I've got the right to do it. He did it. I'm just going to invert his executive order to the way I like. On a private company that sets up their own standards. By the way, are we just can we use this to throw out the Hobby Lobby anti-abortion stance? Are we going to can we now call bullshit on Hobby Lobby using their religion as a way to not provide their secular employees with birth control? That's interfering with commerce. That's someone wanting a service that other people get from the same company, but they can no longer get that service from that same company, Humana or whoever they get as their insurance firm. Hobby Lobby will refuse whatever insurance company to provide birth control. But if you're with that company anywhere else, if you're with Humana or some other company that Hobby Lobby uses, and you work for another company, you have that available. That's a violation of your 10th Amendment rights.
I don't know. I'd have to ask the lawyers. I'd have to go through a legal process.
Yeah, a legal process. They gave him a pinwheel hat and a paper airplane to play with, and I'm putting him in a legal sandbox for him to self-flagellate.
If it were able to be legally shut down, I would do it.
Yeah, it's not.
I think I'd be hurting it very badly if we didn't use it anymore. I mean, we have other...
No, you wouldn't. You really wouldn't. Leave. Prove yourself wrong. Thanks, Rob Glenn. I'm not convinced that vote by mail favors either party. Trump might be hurting himself and Republicans with this one. Wisconsin didn't go quite right when they messed with the primary. Totally true. There's especially older voters, the Fox News voters, a bunch of those folks mail in their ballots, and a lot of those are very worried about going out and catching something and dying, especially the more they push the whole, it's an old folks disease. Only old people who aren't rich get it.
Sites we could use, I guess.
Yeah, leave them. Get off. Go on Minds. Use the White House's website. Chatter all day long. Start your own bulletin board group for MAGA supporters.
Develop other sites, but
you're going to develop other sites. Yeah, so we're going to nationalize social media and create we're going to create a Trump.com. What are we going to use? All right.
And I'm not just talking about Twitter. Look at
look at Facebook.
Look at the tribunal they set up at Facebook. This woman who you remember testifying recently in Congress, her hatred was so incredible.
Yeah, she was there when Russia was buying ads to benefit you in rubles. That'll aggravate
The Republican Party and me, that there is.
Well, maybe she just doesn't like orange.
No way you can get a fair trial.
A trial? You know the shit you can post on social media and nobody gives a crap? All you have to do is word it differently and you duck the AI.
So this is not like
dipshitter. I might have to buy that .com playing doodle and just put it up.
It's supposed to be.
Please leave Twitter. Nobody cares.
This is not like it's supposed to be. So we're gonna.
This is not how it's supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be this hard. Thank you, Templeton Zarat. We are having a good time. 5 o'clock today. We got to hop off for a big family FaceTime, and everybody's excited to see him. But we'll it's a good time.
See what happens, and you know what?
We'll see what happens, which means nothing.
It's going to be challenged in court. What isn't? But I think we'll do very well. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. President, as to potential litigation, can you discuss the timing of that and what is the remedy that you're going to be seeking?
No, what I was referring to, there is litigation going on all the time on Section 230 and its scope, and we would look for appropriate vehicles to weigh in and file statement of interest.
Yeah, so Barr and these guys have just got tired of him bitching at them, and so they drafted up a little impotent Vienna sausage for him to shove into this keyhole and until he gets bored. Honest to God, like there's nothing about this that has any validity whatsoever. This is this is management. They are just managing Trump so they don't have to deal with his bullshit. None of this would stand up to legal scrutiny. None of this falls under decency laws. Are you kidding me? And by the way, you're using the decency and obscenity laws because people want to fact check tweets? Tell me again which party is for the nanny state? This is a private company. This isn't the government fact checking that shit. That's him. This is him. A private company is limiting what you can say and do on their website because they're trying to maximize their profitability by not having this asshole tell people to take drugs that will kill them. Thank you, Hal Vickery. Yeah, like TrumpTweetShit.com, right? And he wants to nanny state this by having the government intervene in what a private company can do in mitigating conversation between its users. That's it. And there is no way any of this holds up in court. There is no way any of this gets actually applied. No way whatsoever. This is to use a phrase that he would use fairly often. Impotent.
Once it was reluctantly aroused, it was hard to get.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. President, are you worried about the situation on the border between India and China?
India. He loves India so much he's never
Indian.
asked a question other than an India question, and that's okay. I just got back from India, right? I just beat COVID.
You're very
I got back. I know. They like me in India. I think they like me in India certainly more than the media likes me in this country.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, you and Modi have a lot in common.
And I like Modi.
Yeah. Ask him about the Aryan rites of passage.
I like your prime minister a lot. He's a great gentleman. Great gentleman. Yeah, they have a big conflict going with India and China. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, that's why he said India and China.
They have a big conflict going
over the water that comes through Tibet.
with India and China. Two countries with 1.4 billion people. Two countries with very powerful militaries. And India's not happy, and probably China's not happy.
Yeah, that's why they call it a conflict.
But I can tell you, I did speak to Prime Minister Modi. He's not.
When did you talk to him? Do you know what he's even asking you about?
In a good mood about what's going on with China.
Really? He's not? He's not cheery?
Yeah.
Did you talk to President Xi? Wait, was that Eric barking like a dog in the background? What the hell was that? Hold on.
He's not in a good mood about what's going on with China.
Mr. President, have you...
What was that? Seriously. That might have been Kellyanne Conway sneezing. I know that she has a different, her species has a different septum than everyone else. But it sounded like tiny dog bark. Sounded like a little dog.
You've spoken to...
Wait, are you finished?
No, sir. So yesterday you tweeted about you want to mediate between India and China on this issue.
I would do that. I would do that if they thought it would help. If I were the
yeah, it'll help. Totally, it'll help.
Mediator or the arbiter, I would do that. So
the arbiter of the mediator immediately arbiting.
So go ahead.
Have you spoken to the family of George Floyd yet?
No, I haven't, but I feel very, very badly. That's a very shocking sight. Bill and I were talking about it before. It's one of the reasons Bill's here right now, because as you know, we're very much involved. And I've asked the Attorney General, FBI, and the Attorney General to take a very strong look and to see what went on, because that was a very, very bad thing that I saw. I saw it last night, and I didn't like it.
Do you think those police officers should be prosecuted?
I'm not going to make any comment right now. I can.
Yeah, he's not going to comment about that because that would it's an ongoing case or whatever. But meanwhile, Joe Scarborough probably killed that chick, right?
I think what I saw was not good.
Well, all right. Thanks for taking a very strong chance. That's leadership, America.
Not good. Very bad.
Not good. Very bad. Tomorrow's headline on the New York Post.
Anybody else?
Mr. President, are you definitively staying in the U.S.-China trade deal?
We'll be announcing what we're doing tomorrow with respect to China, and we are not happy with China. We are not happy with what's happened. All over the world, people are suffering. 186 countries. All over the world, they're suffering.
Yeah, really. And why did you drag your ass to get phase 1 of this China deal through, to get $50 billion for farmers, and to even out a trade deficit of the stuff we buy from them versus the stuff they buy from us as citizens of each other's countries, by the way?
We're not happy. Okay.
So nothing.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Let's go. Come on. Come on.
Let's go. Everybody out. Come on, you guys. Oh my God.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Get out.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Before he says anything else. I love the pack-up shot. I gotta say, there's something exciting about this. Everybody's walking right out onto the yard. Usually they take it out in the hallway. Everyone into the Rose Garden. You disgust me. Look at all those masks. Will be part of history. Do you hear that from Barr as he's leaving? Wait 1 second.
Not happy. Okay. Thank you.
Listen to the audio as he's leaving. Try to keep them talking before they walk out. Yeah, that's all I could hear was, I don't know what the lead on that part was. Holy smokes. Now, I've only got a half hour left before we get our little family get together going on. There's a lovely Kayleigh McEnaney little briefing. I don't think it's particularly long. She's wearing Burke's Blue today.
Start by acknowledging the horrific tragedy in Minnesota of George Floyd. The death of George Floyd is absolutely tragic. That video that we saw, that I saw, that my staff saw, that the president saw, and the president put out a statement last night that...
Why is her left arm the same color as Trump's face?
At his request, the FBI and the Department of Justice
Is there a spray tan booth in the Oval Office?
Are already well into an investigation as to the very sad and tragic death in Minnesota of George Floyd. I have asked for this investigation to be expedited and greatly appreciate all of the work done by law enforcement. My heart goes out to George's family and friends. Justice will be served. I can tell you that as I'm briefing you at this moment, the president is receiving a briefing from the Attorney General, Bill Barr, on this, and the Deputy Director of the FBI. So that is ongoing.
This was before the signing.
As I begin this briefing.
So that happened after?
Secondly, I want to transition into some news from SBA and Treasury that was announced that today the U.S. Small Business Administration,
nice.
in consultation with the U.S. Treasury Department, announced that it is setting aside $10 billion of round 2 funding for the Paycheck Protection Program to be lent exclusively to CDFIs. Those are community development financial institutions. CDFIs work to
Thank you, 1524 Scooter. Hi.
Expand economic opportunity in low-income communities.
I appreciate it. Computers can be a bit hard to work with sometimes. Lord knows mine gets a little seized up.
By providing access to financial products and services for local residents and businesses. So we're encouraged to see that. And then finally, before taking your questions, I wanted to address
I know I'm going to regret this.
What has been going on Twitter and with social media. I believe it is time to, quote, get the facts about Twitter and other,
quote, get the fact. Here we go.
Social media platforms targeting
and other social media platforms.
Their bias against President Trump and conservatives online. If we were to judge the bias of Twitter and its top employees by their own words, the case would be an easy one to make. Twitter's head of site integrity has tweeted that there are, quote, actual Nazis in the White House and no fact.
I think he's referring to Stephen Miller.
Check label was ever applied to this absolutely outrageous.
because they put the word "I think."
Outrageous, offensive, and false claim made against the White House and its employees.
Yeah, that was an opinion-based thing, and no one would think for any reason that he would have that kind of knowledge. So normal inference would be that this person has no knowledge of, nor have they ever been in the actual White House. So therefore, when they say it, it is understood to be hyperbolic. Whereas the President of the United States, when he says something like there's fraud, when we have no evidence of it, the President gets secret briefings. So therefore, the onus is upon the President and everyone around him, and of course anybody who delivers that, to be more truthful, because their words carry more weight.
But let's judge Twitter based on their actions, not based on the words of its top employees. And its
all 140 of them, or are we going all the way to the 280?
actions are no better. President Trump recently received a so-called fact check label.
So-called fact check. He got a so-called air quotes
For a tweet. It was a false fact check and an accurate fact check, but nevertheless, Twitter moved forward with it. Dan Scavino, the deputy chief of staff here, was the first user in the history of Twitter to receive a so-called, quote, manipulated media label for posting.
Yeah, because they have the option of just dumping you off the entire site, which is what they do with normal people. You guys are getting special favor. Scavino and the president and everybody in the White House, they're getting little asterisks. The rest of us just get kicked off for 24 or 48 hours or permanently.
Video that played a verbatim clip. It is no coincidence that these two unbelievable interventions by Twitter were targeted against the President of the United States and one of the President's top advisors. This is bias in action.
Is he a literal Nazi, though? I don't know for a fact. Have we checked?
And while big tech is quick to censor the President, quick to censor some of his top
Thank you, Flang Doodle.
employees, they are very reluctant, it seems, to label some of the actions by Chinese officials, some of the misinformation that has been spread by China.
Let me explain something to you. In the world of electoral politics, we as Americans do not give the same weight to China Daily or the Chinese government or Chinese sites as we do to the president of our own country. You see what I mean? We understand that theirs is filtered. The problem is, the president, when he lies, has the illusion of confirmation. So when he's lying and using the office as a weapon, the only recourse besides dumping off the site entirely is to put a little asterisk that he's full of shit.
Example, to move off of Twitter and move to Google, they created a search engine for the Chinese Communist Party, which blacklisted searches for human rights and allowed for easy surveillance. Facebook and Twitter have both
inside China
taken paid advertising that spread disinformation about China's mass imprisonment of religious minorities, and Twitter has
which ones? Say who they are. Say the Uyghurs.
Allowed Chinese officials to use its platforms to spread misinformation about the coronavirus, undermine the pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong, and more. And then,
yeah, we don't care in our country. We have First Amendment rights here. We also understand that when those words come from outside our country, the standard is different, so we take those with a grain of salt. That's why Russians use bots pretending to be Americans.
Back in March, a Chinese official began spreading a conspiracy theory on Twitter, an egregious one, that our U.S. military was responsible for the spread of the coronavirus. And that tweet, that disinformation, it took all the way until today when we raised concerns about it to get a fact check. So they appear to be very hastily eager to...
Very hastily eager. Yeah, we as Americans don't buy what the line from the Chinese government. We should be able to buy the line from our own government, and when it turns out to be false, we can't just assume it's true.
Censor President Trump and some of his employees, but a little reluctant when it comes to China. It's a bit befuddling.
It's very weird. It's almost like they get money from China or something, and I don't think we should trust anyone who gets hundreds of millions of dollars from China.
But no one believes in the First Amendment more than the president. That's
why he signed the first executive order to limit free speech in private organizations in our nation's history.
And we'll take action to ensure that big tech does not stifle free speech and that the rights of all Americans to speak, tweet, and post are protected.
What about other people? What about, because you're talking about Chinese officials. So anybody in the world can tweet without any kind of a fact check, and the standard is different for the President of the United States than it is for the rest of us.
And finally, I just want to note one other action of Twitter that I learned just before walking out here, that on the Mueller report, their anti-Trump headlines were anti-Trump by a ratio of 76-1.
You curate what you want to see, and the majority of people on Twitter were searching for those kind of things and boosting those kind of things.
It's extraordinary, and it's not just bias aimed at President Trump and his employees. It's also aimed at everyday Americans. It's
Why is it bias? Isn't it? It's evidentiary.
Aimed at the movie Unplanned.
It's amazing how it's bias, how biased everybody gets after they see the evidence.
As Twitter suspended their account and then came up with an excuse in the aftermath. And then just another example, that liberals are allowed to incite violence against the Covington kids who were in the end proven right, and their video was taken out of context, and yet these individuals were allowed by Twitter to incite.
No, they got suspended. But the president doesn't get suspended when he does that. Instead, he gets an asterisk because he's special. The rest of us get dumped and warned or bounced, and he gets an asterisk. Boo. Buckety who.
Violence. It's very disturbing to see. So those are
so disturbing to see.
The president's concerns, and with.
By the way, the Covington kids thing, I did a single post on that, which was, this is the result of bad parenting, and I, to some degree, regret doing that since it's kids and you can't really tell who's to blame in this situation. I didn't know who the kid was, and I left it up because I stand by most of what I say unless there's a really egregious spelling error. But I will say this, the people, like the whole Nathan Phillips, Covington kids, and the black folks that they were supposedly arguing with, those black folks they were supposedly arguing with were the Black Hebrew Israelites, same group that shot up people in killed people in the Orthodox community in New York City. It's the same organization. It's not just random people walking by, saw these kids in their red hats and started yelling. These kids, they were yelling like anti-gay epithets. They were yelling anti-religious epithets. Nathan Phillips assumed that the white kids were in the wrong because he walked in the middle of it and marched into them. Like, that whole thing was a mess. And so that's why I'm reticent when stuff gets posted where we're picking up something a third of the way in, which most videos are that way anyways, because until you get the further video, why I'm reticent to jump in on a lot of those things, because I feel like we get baited by the right sometimes now to get all fired up about some stuff. It's very concerning, and I don't want to get baited into those things. So I will often keep my powder dry until I, at least 24 hours so more information comes out. Then when you get self-righteous or righteously indignant about something, it's legitimate, as opposed to you just being led around by the nose or having your own empathy or care for your fellow man to be weaponized. And that's a danger with social media too. That's what that manipulation is all about. So that's my concern. So there you go.
That I will take questions. Jim. That's a very nice tie, Jim, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Why is she sexualizing him and making outfit descriptions about a man like that? That's just wrong. I'm completely taking this out of context. I'm going to start the video from there.
Yesterday, the U.S. hit 100,000 deaths from the coronavirus.
Yeah, I've got a page on that.
That happened at around...
Let me get to my page on 100,000 deaths.
6 o'clock.
While this president thinks that one person dying too much, we have to get our country open.
Yesterday evening, it took until about 9 in the morning for the president to recognize that on Twitter. What took him so long?
We actually think the numbers are fake, and it's a lot less than that.
The president recognized that landmark before we even hit it. The president, that was, after all, it was the impetus behind him lowering the flag to half-staff. He did that for several days.
Because Biden suggested doing it.
That was an acknowledgement of that number.
In their phone call 3.5 weeks ago.
And he acknowledged it in a tweet this morning.
But we hit 100,000 yesterday evening, and it took 13 hours some odd hours for
And he still tweeted a bunch of stuff.
him to recognize that and tweet about it.
And far in advance of that benchmark, as I noted, he lowered the flag to half-staff. The president has said...
It was Memorial Day.
You know, you mentioned 100,000, but the president has said one death is too many.
Yeah, he doesn't mean it, though. Because clearly we're reopening. You're telling people we got to get open. We got to get open. We got to get open. If one death is too many, you would actively say, then we can't open until we know we've got testing and tracing in place.
He takes this very seriously.
Yeah, I can tell. That's why he's writing a thing about Twitter. He spent half his day.
Said before, this is the hardest part of his presidency. It's something that no one wanted to see happen.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he feels anything about it. Just because it's the hardest thing of his presidency and nobody wanted it to happen. What about those two statements actually means he gives a shit about the ramifications of 100,000 Americans dying? Really? Those are two self-involved statements. Why this? That's, oh, woe is me.
Shouldn't the president be fact-checked? Especially this president who has made so many false and misleading statements that it has put...
I have a page on how false and misleading you guys are.
Fact-checkers to work across the world. I mean, he's uttered some 18,000 false or misleading statements, according to the Washington Post. If there's any president out there who should be fact-checked, any political leader out there should be fact-checked, isn't it President Trump? And aren't you trying to silence fact-checking by going after Twitter like this?
Look, well, first I would say I disagree with all, if not almost all, of those assertions that you're making there because, look, if you're going to get into the fact-checking business, there's no one that should be fact-checked more than the mainstream media that has been continually wrong about a number of things. To give you a list of some of the most egregious ones.
Yeah, let's do this. So, which ones? Now, is there a difference between being wrong and actively lying? And thanks, Rogue M42.
That ABC News in December of 2017 falsely reported that Flynn would testify that the president directed him during the campaign to make contact with the Russians. That was false in 2017.
Yeah, and then he made a deal so that he didn't have to testify.
Your network, CNN, botched their WikiLeaks email exclusive and were forced to make on-air corrections.
They did make on-air corrections. Has the president ever made a correction?
CNN's Jem Sciutto, another CNN one, dropped a fictional bombshell in 2018, July, claiming that Michael Cohen would tell federal investigators that the president knew of the Trump Tower meeting. And there are many more, not to just put the onus on...
Yeah, Michael Cohen went to jail for lying, and he's writing a book right now. Let me guess. On what? Should we take odds right now on whether or not there's going to be a section in the book about that part?
CNN there. So if anyone needs to be fact-checked, I think it should be the media.
There are news outlets that make mistakes from time to time. We own up to those mistakes. We correct those mistakes.
Not always. I have many you guys haven't owned up to. I could get to.
We do on a regular basis. The president never owns up to any of his false or misleading statements or outright lies. You have pledged in this briefing room to never lie to the American people. Are you saying that the president of the United States has never lied to the public before?
I'm around the president. His intent is always to give truthful information to the American people, and you mentioned that the media...
His intent?
Yeah, apologizes for their mistruths. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at other headlines in the New York Times saying there aren't enough ventilators to cope with the coronavirus. In fact, we had an excess of ventilators we've shipped around the world. Washington Post, U.S. health system is showing...
That's because the need for and use of them and the drugs that were available and being used changed over the course of it. They were staring at it and trying to deal with it the same way China had.
Why it's not ready for a coronavirus pandemic. We were ready.
They weren't.
There's many more.
Were you ready? You were ready. We were so ready. There's 100,000 dead in 2 months.
I could get to.
What's not ready look like?
The coronavirus specifically. I could spend the time going through these, but I don't think that's what the American people want to hear.
Yes. On the Minnesota case, does the president agree with the firings of the 4 police officers, and does he believe that they should be prosecuted?
I haven't talked to him about that specifically, but let me tell you this, that he was very upset when he saw that video. I was on Air Force One. I don't know if it was the first time he saw it, but he certainly saw it again on Air Force One. He was very upset by it. It was egregious, appalling, tragic, and it prompted him to pick up the phone, or the chief of staff to pick up the phone and say, we need to expedite what was already an FBI investigation. He wants justice to be served.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the chief of staff did this.
Definitely.
Thanks, Kayla. Can you give us an update on when the president plans to sign the EO on Twitter and social media? And
Yeah, he signed it earlier. Do we see him sign it? He usually signs it and holds it up. Did he actually sign
Also
it?
give us an update on his plans for
Yeah, you know what? Maybe they picked up after he signed it on that video?
and Hong Kong. Is there an order coming on that as well?
I don't... Shit, I just realized that. Hold on a second. Yeah, no, I don't see a signature on it. His little box of pens is closed. Yeah, he didn't sign it on camera. Wonder why. That's weird. It's fake news. I actually signed it. You're just seeing things that are fake.
So thank you for the question. First, I would note with regard to the timing of the EO, that should be later this afternoon is what we're hoping for, hopefully before 5 p.m. But again, it could change. It's still in the works, but we are getting closer. With regard to Hong Kong, I would just say, reiterate what I said 2 days ago, but I would also say that China's decision to impose a new national security law in Hong Kong lies in direct conflict with its international obligations.
Hey, it's funny, if you guys hadn't been so hard against TPP, you might have been able to coordinate a U.S. Group with the South China Seas group and the South Koreans and Thailand and Indonesia, and you wouldn't be so reliant on China. It's almost like that's what people were trying to do with a Trans-Pacific partnership.
Under the principles of the legally binding UN-registered Sino-British Joint Declaration, and that Secretary Pompeo determined that Hong Kong does not warrant different treatment under U.S. laws because Hong Kong no longer remains sufficiently autonomous from the PRC. And then anything further, I'd refer you to the State Department for now.
Just one more somewhat related. The House recently passed a bill about a minority group in China, the Uyghurs, if I said that correctly. Does the president plan to sign that? And is the White House going to treat bills, or does the White House see any concerns about bills that have been passed by proxy as not being constitutional?
So we would, first, let me say we would encourage Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats and others to come back to the Hill. It's more productive to have those members here. The Senate has convened, the House can do the same, and they can do it in person.
Yeah, and they've had outbreaks because of it, dummy.
But with regard to the Uyghurs, that's a very important question. We haven't received the bill yet, so the president hasn't been able to look through it, and I won't get ahead of him on announcing.
As soon as I receive the bill, I will stiff them on the tip.
One way or the other on that, but I would note that the Trump administration continues to take actions to hold the CCP accountable for its highly repressive campaign against the Uyghurs and other religious and ethnic minorities. Paula.
Hey, Kaylee, thank you. On vaccines, in order to achieve herd immunity, you need about 80% of people to get the
60.
vaccine. Currently, only about 50% of
You don't need 80% to get the vaccine. You need 60% of people to have actually had the disease and passed through it already.
Americans say they'll receive it. So will the administration make the vaccine mandatory?
So the vaccine, let me just note that we're working aggressively to get one, and we would like to get one by the end of the year.
I won't be using it. I will be using prayer.
Everything does not depend on a vaccine. Vaccine's an important component of this, but there are also therapeutics.
Treatments, cures are very exciting. Cures. It's a cure. You have a cure. Whatever the fuck a cure is.
We're seeing there's not necessarily a tie to reopening. And
I don't know the difference between a cure and a treatment. I guess they give you something and the disease goes away. That's both a cure and a treatment. Maybe both, maybe half. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Increase in cases, so that's encouraging. And I would refer you further to Alex Azar, who's made extensive comments on a vaccine and the necessity.
It's clear if you guys will make it mandatory.
You said CCP instead of CDC, you mean?
Use your federal powers, how you'll use them potentially to encourage people to get this vaccine, because if you don't have herd immunity, elderly people, immunocompromised folks, they may not be able to go about their business again.
Yeah, I would have to talk to the president. I haven't talked to him about his
I don't know. He doesn't know. Nobody knows. This is all bullshit, so thanks very much.
views on making it mandatory or not. So
I'm gonna
I'd have
jump.
to talk
We've only got 8 minutes left, so I'm going to jump around a little bit.
and get back to you on that. Yes.
Thank you, Kaylee. I wanted to ask you a question, first of all, about
I want to ask you why your shoulders are a weird bronzer color, but your face has this kind of light pinkish color, like your makeup choice on your face and neck are different than your arms.
comment.
You drive with both windows down?
The statement that you made. At the conclusion of your comments, in regards to George Floyd, you said that justice will be served. What do you mean by that? Do you mean that those all,
Oh God, don't even.
without getting ahead of what the president intends to sign?
Yeah, I don't want to get ahead of that, but the one thing I will say more broadly, you referenced that section, I think that would be included in what I'm about to say. There are various shields in place that essentially shield some of these social media companies and allow them to censor conservative users, and we're not able to see what happens behind those shields. That section was one of those shields you mentioned, so we're looking at ways to remove those shields to shed some light on what is happening and some of the decision-making behind the scenes. That's generally and broad.
Cool. Can you show us the president's DMs?
The idea, but I won't get ahead on any specific announcements. That
I mean, why can the people who work at Twitter be able to see the president's DMs and the American people can't?
Should come hopefully before 5 p.m. John.
Kaylee, I want to follow up on Jim's question on fact-checking at Twitter, but first a clarification. Has the president spoken to the family of George Floyd?
Not to my knowledge. If he did, without my knowledge, that could have happened, but not to my knowledge.
Do you know if he intends to, or will you get back to us on that?
I have the president's concerns, and in that, I will get to.
I have so little interest in what Trump does with or his approach to the Floyd situation. It's horrifying. Like I said, in my opinion, it's murder. We all witnessed a murder. It's that simple. Throw the murderers in jail.
The California.
And the cops that were standing around while it happened are complicit in that murder. They go to jail. It's like anybody else would. If there was a dude choking someone to death with their knee by crushing their throat on the ground, and 3 of their buddies kept everybody from intervening to stop it from happening, those people would be complicit in a murder charge. Done.
Example. First, I want to note that there is a Pew.
Even if the dude was in a fist fight, especially if he's cuffed afterwards, even if it was like 2 citizens against each other, neither one's a cop, so you're in a fist fight. One guy's on the ground, and the guy is kneeling on his neck after the fight's over. If the guy's hands were tied behind his back while he did it, I mean, everybody who didn't stop that was an accessory.
Study done that shows there's plenty of reason to believe that in the mass mail-in system that there is fraud. They estimated that approximately 24 million, 1 out of every 8 voters registered in the U.S. are no longer valid or are significantly inaccurate. So these are people who are.
That's why everybody updates their registration. That's why you have to update your registration when you change your license and all that. And that's a vast overstatement. 24 million voters? Okay. Are all of those Democrats? No.
On voter registrations that have not been maintained, that have not been kept up, more than 1.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to keep them up if you've been voting in the same place for 20 years. You change your driver's license and you change your address, you update your stuff.
Million have been deceased, they estimated.
Dead people don't vote.
And when you look and drill down into some of the examples that we've seen in states.
You are lying to the American people, Kaylee McEnany, and you are at least have the decency to hide your cross today.
Nevada I read about this last week, and it just really struck me as a perfect example of what the president is concerned about with mail-in ballots and the fraud that can be inherent in that. There were ballots, because Nevada mass mailed them out to voter rolls, that were piling up in apartment complexes, outside of apartment complexes in Las Vegas, sitting around in trash cans. This is how we're protecting ballots. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, they weren't sent in. They weren't faked and mailed in. They weren't hand carried in piles or re-signed. People threw them out. People chose not to vote.
Postal workers, one 36-year veteran carrier said she's never seen anything like these influx of absentee ballots. All of the people had moved or died when she set out to deliver on her first delivery route, and this happened just recently. You can
and they don't come back.
Read the articles from last week. She found
they ended up in the garbage.
65 ballots of people who had moved or died on her second carry, 100. And then as the week progressed, thousands just sitting in crates. I mean, this is extraordinary. This is not.
Yeah. Were they harvested? Did they come back? Were they signed? Did someone crack open a single envelope and return one fraudulently?
we should be protecting U.S.
They got thrown out.
ballots. In South Carolina, the Democrats sued to force a rush transfer of mail-in voting, and this happened again recently. I think it was last week. And
Yeah, so people don't have to die to vote.
mail-in ballots for South Carolina turned up in Maryland. There's another example of 700 suspicious mail-in ballots in Dallas and an individual charged with second-degree felony illegal voting.
Right. Yeah, and tell them what the sentence is for doing that, and then tell me you will find 1 million people willing to risk their lives as forgers and fraudsters to make how much money would either party have to pay to talk these people into 20 years per
He's
charge?
accused of visiting a woman in April to collect her blank absentee ballot, filling it out and forging her signature. I mean, this is extraordinary.
Right.
And then you go on.
Yeah. One person.
There's a New Jersey example of over 3,000 ballots that were seemingly set aside, and going to California.
Set aside. Yeah. They were set aside. They were not counted. That's exactly it. They don't match.
You mentioned California is one of those states that's notorious for ballot harvesting. And in
How so?
2018, the registrar in Orange County said that they reported that his office had people dropping off maybe 100 or 200 ballots at a time, and somehow in LA County, 112%.
No. Orange County. You just said Orange County. Does anyone know how what the political leanings of Orange County are? It is a Republican area in Southern California.
Of LA County is registered.
Not LA County. You just said Orange County.
So the problem is this: when you don't clean your register and you send out your entire register, auto send out these ballots, they end up in trash cans like in Nevada.
They don't end up coming back with fake notes on.
Are subject to fraud, and that is extremely troubling.
But Kaylee, I asked you a very specific question.
I got to sign off. Time to go. Stuff. Hold on. Whoops. Hold on.
Will the president correct that, acknowledge that what he said is simply not true?
There's an executive order that was put into place recently by Gavin Newsom that would auto send to voter rolls, and that would lead to what the president was suggesting.
I got to sign off.
Excuse me, Kaylee, to registered voters, it's not to everybody, it's to registered voters.
Yeah, to everyone, including dead people on the voter rolls.
Including dead people who notoriously vote Republican. Don't call it. Everyone's FaceTiming all at once. Okay, I have to sign off, you guys. Appreciate you. I will talk to you soon. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else.
Mysterious 112% in LA County.
I will be back next time. Thank you guys so much for the
extra 12%. And if you're not
for our tweets and our super chats today. And I will talk to you. Yes, she's definitely very excited
about that. I'm sorry. I mean, the media is very concerned about the security
of our
election. Be
quiet, Kaylee. Nonsense. And I will hop on later on tonight. I'll be back. I've got a show in a little while, a little get-together show, and then I'll be back on later on, and then I'll be on my regular time tomorrow. You guys are wonderful. I'll talk to you later. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else, and we'll see you next time. All right.
But when it comes to mail-in ballots, all of a sudden, the concern for election security just melts away.
But Kelly, you yourself have voted by mail.
Thank you very much.
Brian.
Mail-in ballots, research has shown that, one, it does at either party, it increases voter participation. Secretaries of State of both parties